Marcus Webb's alarm screamed at 4:47 a.m., 3 minutes before it was supposed to. He slapped it silent and lay in the dark, listening to the radiator clank and hiss in the corner of their studio apartment. Through the thin walls, he could hear Mrs. Chen coughing next door, the same wet, rattling sound she'd had for weeks. He sat up slowly, feeling every one of his 34 years in his lower back. The mattress, a double they'd found on the curb 2 years ago, sagged in the middle where Maya slept beside him. She was curled into a tight ball, her brown skin luminous even in the pre-dawn darkness, her thick curls splayed across the pillow like a crown. Marcus touched her forehead gently, warm, but not feverish. Good. He stood and moved through the apartment in the dark, his feet knowing every creak in the floorboards. 23 steps from bed to bathroom, 12 from bathroom to the kitchenette. The numbers were automatic now, a map he'd memorized through repetition and necessity. The bathroom mirror showed him what he already knew: exhausted eyes, a jaw that needed shaving, gray creeping into his temples earlier than it should. He splashed cold water on his face and got dressed. Jeans, a faded Howard University t-shirt that had survived since his sophomore year, and thick socks with a hole in the left toe. In the kitchenette, he counted the bills in the ceramic jar they kept by the microwave. $43. Rent was due in 9 days. He needed $340 more. He'd already picked up 2 extra shifts this week at the building. His supervisor, Rick, said there might be more work coming, some kind of corporate event that needed setup. Marcus would take it. He'd take anything. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Marcus opened the cabinet above the sink. 3 cans of soup, half a box of spaghetti, a jar of peanut butter with maybe 2 sandwiches left in it. He'd go to the food pantry on Thursday. They opened at noon, which meant he could sleep for a few hours after his shift, pick up Maya from school, and get there before they ran out of the good stuff. He made coffee in the ancient Mr. Coffee machine that only worked if you held the power button down for exactly 4 seconds. While it brewed, he pulled out Maya's school clothes from the plastic bin under the bed, a purple shirt with a unicorn on it, jeans with a patch on the knee where she'd fallen on the playground, and her only pair of sneakers that weren't falling apart. He laid them out on the chair by the bed, then went back to the kitchen and poured coffee into a chipped mug that said, "World's Best Dad," a Father's Day gift Maya had bought him last year with money she'd saved from helping Mrs. Chen carry groceries. The coffee was terrible. Cheap grounds he'd stretched too thin. But it was hot, and it woke him up, and that was enough. He sat at the small table by the window and looked out at the street below. The city was still dark, but the streetlights showed him the same view he saw every morning: cracked pavement, overflowing dumpsters, a homeless man sleeping in the doorway of the bodega across the street. Marcus had lived in this neighborhood his entire life. He'd been born 3 blocks away in the same hospital where Maya was born. He'd gone to school 4 blocks east. He'd married Keisha in the church on the corner, the one with the broken stained glass window that no one had money to fix. And he'd buried her 2 miles north in the cemetery that overlooked the highway. 7 years. That's how long they'd had together. 7 years of struggling and fighting and loving each other through every impossible thing this city threw at them. And then one morning, she didn't wake up. Brain aneurysm. No warning. No goodbye. Maya had been 6 months old. Marcus touched the simple gold band on his left hand. He still wore it. Not because he thought Keisha was coming back, but because taking it off felt like admitting she'd never existed at all. He checked the time. 5:23 a.m. He needed to leave in 12 minutes. He walked over to the bed and knelt beside his daughter. "Maya, baby girl, time to wake up." She stirred, mumbling something about butterflies. "Come on, sweetheart. We've got to get you ready for school." Maya's eyes opened slowly. She looked at him with that same sleepy confusion she had every morning, like she couldn't quite believe the day had already started. "Is it morning already?" Her voice was small and scratchy. "Yeah, baby, it's morning." She sat up and rubbed her eyes. "Did you make breakfast?" Marcus's chest tightened. "We've got cereal, the kind you like." Maya nodded. She didn't complain. She never complained. At 7 years old, she already understood that some things just were what they were. He helped her get dressed, his large hands fumbling with the small buttons on her shirt. She stood patiently while he worked, humming a song she'd learned in music class. "What's that song?" Marcus asked. "It's called Lean on Me. Mrs. Patterson taught us. It's about helping people." "That's a good song. She said we should always help people when they need it, even if we don't have much." Marcus paused, looking at his daughter's serious face. "Mrs. Patterson is right." He poured her cereal, the generic kind in the big bag, not the name brand with the cartoon character. Maya ate it slowly, swinging her legs under the table. "Daddy? Yeah? Are we poor?" The question hit him like a fist. He set down his coffee mug carefully. "Why are you asking that?" "Jeremy at school said his mom said we're poor. He said that's why I wear the same shoes all the time." Marcus felt anger rise in his throat, but he swallowed it. "We don't have a lot of money, baby, that's true. But we have each other, and we have this apartment, and you're going to a good school, so we're doing okay. But we're not rich?" "No, we're not rich." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "That's okay. Rich people aren't always happy anyway. Mrs. Patterson said that too." Marcus smiled despite himself. "Mrs. Patterson sounds pretty smart." "She is. She has a poster that says, 'Kindness costs nothing.' I like that poster." "Me too." At 5:47 a.m., Marcus walked Maya down 3 flights of stairs to Mrs. Chen's apartment. The old woman was already awake, standing in her doorway in a faded bathrobe. "Good morning, Marcus." "Good morning, Maya." "Morning, Mrs. Chen. Thank you for watching her." "No need to thank. She's a good girl. We'll have breakfast together and I'll walk her to school at 7:30. Marcus knelt down and hugged Maya tightly. "You be good for Mrs. Chen, okay?" "I will. And listen to your teachers." "I always do." "I know you do. I love you, baby girl." "I love you too, Daddy." He stood and nodded to Mrs. Chen, then headed down the last flight of stairs and out into the cold morning. The bus came at 6:02. Marcus paid his fare, 2.75 he'd counted out the night before, and found a seat in the back. The bus was mostly empty. A few other workers heading to early shifts. A woman with a baby sleeping against her shoulder. An old man who smelled like cigarettes and sadness. Marcus stared out the window as the city rolled past. Pawn shops, check-cashing places, liquor stores with bars on the windows. And then, as the bus moved downtown, the landscape changed. Coffee shops, boutiques, buildings made of glass and steel that reflected the sunrise. The Hartwell Industries Tower was 43 stories of gleaming metal and tinted windows. It dominated the downtown skyline, a monument to wealth and power and everything Marcus would never have. He got off the bus at 6:34 and walked around to the service entrance in the back. Rick was already there, smoking a cigarette and looking at his phone. "You're late," Rick said without looking up. "I'm 4 minutes early." "Early is on time. On time is late." Marcus didn't respond. He swiped his badge and pushed through the heavy door into the service corridor. The bowels of the building were nothing like the polished lobby upstairs. Down here, everything was concrete and fluorescent lights and the smell of industrial cleaner. Marcus changed into his uniform, navy blue pants and a matching shirt with "maintenance" stitched on the pocket, and grabbed his supply cart. His shift was 6:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. 8 hours of emptying trash bins, mopping floors, cleaning bathrooms, and making sure the people upstairs never had to think about the people downstairs. He started on the 3rd floor and worked his way up. Conference rooms, executive offices, break rooms with fancy coffee machines and refrigerators full of sparkling water and Greek yogurt. By 9:15, he'd reached the 37th floor. Executive row. This floor was different, quieter. The carpet was thicker. The art on the walls actually looked like art instead of stock photos of handshakes, and the offices had actual doors instead of cubicle walls. Marcus moved through the hallway with practiced efficiency. Empty the bins, wipe down the surfaces. Don't touch anything personal. He was cleaning the conference room when he heard voices approaching. Don't care what the board thinks. The merger is a mistake and I'm voting against it. The voice was female, sharp, controlled. Marcus recognized it immediately. Victoria Hartwell, CEO, the woman whose name was on the building. He'd seen her exactly 3 times in the 2 years he'd worked here, always from a distance, always moving fast, surrounded by people in expensive suits. Victoria, if you block this merger, Drummond is going to push for a vote of no confidence. That was a man's voice, older, tired. Let him push. I'm not selling this company to vultures just because the stock price dipped. The voices passed by the conference room. Marcus kept his head down, kept wiping the table. Invisible. That was the key to this job. Be invisible. But then his cart shifted. One of the wheels, the one that had been wobbling all morning, finally gave up. The cart tipped, and a bottle of glass cleaner crashed to the floor. The voices stopped. Marcus cursed under his breath and quickly knelt to pick up the bottle. Footsteps approached. Then a woman's voice, colder than before. Is everything all right? Marcus stood and turned. Victoria Hartwell stood in the doorway. She was exactly as he'd imagined from the company photos. Tall, poised, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than 3 months of his rent. Her dark skin was flawless, her hair pulled back in a sleek twist. She wore diamond studs in her ears that caught the light. But it was her eyes that struck him. They were exhausted. Behind the makeup and the power suit and the carefully controlled expression, Victoria Hartwell looked like she hadn't slept in months. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. The cartwheel broke. She looked at the cart, then at him. Her gaze was analytical, assessing. Your maintenance? Yes, ma'am. I'll get this cleaned up and be out of your way. She nodded once, then turned to leave. And that's when she froze. Her entire body went rigid. Her hand, which had been reaching for the doorframe, stopped mid-air. Marcus followed her gaze and realized what she was looking at. His jacket. The brown leather jacket he'd draped over his cart because the building's AC was always cranked too high in the morning. He'd bought it 3 weeks ago at the Salvation Army on Amsterdam Ave. $8. It was worn but not falling apart, and it was warm. Warmer than the thin windbreaker he'd been using. Victoria Hartwell stared at that jacket like it was a ghost. Where? Her voice came out hoarse. She cleared her throat and tried again. Where did you get that jacket? Marcus glanced at it, confused. The thrift store on Amsterdam. Why? Victoria's face had gone pale beneath her rich brown skin. She took a step into the conference room, her eyes never leaving the jacket. That's my husband's jacket. Marcus's stomach dropped. I'm sorry, what? That jacket belonged to my husband. Victoria's voice was shaking now. He died 18 months ago. That jacket was... It was in a donation box. I couldn't... She stopped, her hand coming up to her mouth. The other man, gray-haired, wearing wire-rimmed glasses, appeared in the doorway behind her. Victoria. She ignored him. She walked forward slowly, like she was approaching something fragile. May I? Marcus nodded, too stunned to speak. Victoria picked up the jacket with both hands. She held it like it might disintegrate. Her fingers traced the collar, the zipper, the small tear in the left sleeve. And then she reached into the inside pocket. She pulled out a piece of paper, folded, yellowed slightly at the edges. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. Marcus watched her read, watched her expression crack, watched tears spill down her cheeks despite the carefully applied makeup, despite the man standing in the doorway watching, despite every wall she'd clearly built to keep herself together. "He wrote this the week before he died," Victoria whispered. "I've been looking for this letter for 18 months. I thought it was gone. I thought he never—" She couldn't finish the sentence. The gray-haired man stepped forward. "Victoria, we should— Give me a moment, Charles." Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. Charles hesitated, then nodded and left. Victoria carefully refolded the letter and slipped it back into the jacket pocket. Then she looked at Marcus, really looked at him, for the first time. "What's your name?" "Marcus Webb, ma'am." "How much do you want for this jacket, Marcus?" The question caught him off guard. I'm not trying to sell it to you. If it's yours, you should have it." "I can't just take it from you. You paid for it." "I paid $8. Victoria pulled out her phone. "I'll transfer you." "Ma'am, please, just take the jacket. It's yours." She stared at him. In that moment, something shifted in her expression. The walls came down just slightly, just enough for him to see the woman underneath the CEO mask. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why would you just give it to me?" Marcus thought about Maya, about Keisha's wedding ring that he'd sold when they couldn't make rent, about all the things he'd lost that he'd never get back. "Because some things aren't about money," he said. "If my wife had left something behind and someone found it, I'd want them to give it back. No questions asked." Victoria's eyes filled with tears again. She nodded once, holding the jacket close to her chest. "Thank you, Marcus Webb." Then she turned and walked out of the conference room, leaving Marcus alone with his broken cart and the strange, hollow feeling that his life had just shifted in a direction he couldn't predict. Marcus didn't see Victoria Hartwell for 3 days after the jacket incident. He moved through his shifts with the same mechanical efficiency, but his mind kept returning to that moment in the conference room, the way she'd held that jacket, the tears she couldn't stop, the letter she'd been searching for. He wondered what the letter said, wondered what words a dying man leaves for the woman he loves. On the 4th day, Rick called him into the maintenance office. "Webb, you're being reassigned." Marcus's stomach clenched. "What? Why?" Rick shrugged, clearly uncomfortable. "Not my decision. Orders came from upstairs. You're moving to the executive floor. Permanent assignment. 37th floor only." "I don't understand." "Neither do I, man. But when the CEO's office sends down a request with your name on it—" Rick handed him a new badge. "You start tomorrow. Same hours. Better pay." Marcus stared at the badge. "How much better?" $4 more per hour. $4. $32 more per day. $160 more per week. Marcus did the math in his head. That was groceries. That was Maya's school supplies. That was breathing room he hadn't had in years. Why would they do this? Rick gave him a look. "I don't ask questions above my pay grade. Neither should you." That night, Marcus sat at the small table in their apartment while Maya did her homework. She was working on a math worksheet, her tongue poking out in concentration as she counted on her fingers. "Daddy, what's 7 times 8? 56. "How do you know that so fast?" "Practice, baby girl. You'll get there." Maya wrote down the answer carefully. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "Something good happened today." Marcus looked up. "What happened?" "Mrs. Patterson said I'm the best reader in the class. She said I'm reading at a 4th grade level and I'm only in 2nd grade. Pride swelled in Marcus's chest. "That's amazing, Maya. I'm so proud of you." "She said I should try out for the reading competition, but it costs money to enter. $25. The pride turned to pain. $25. Before today, that would have been impossible. Now, with the raise— "When's the competition?" "Next month. But it's okay if we can't do it. I understand." Marcus reached across the table and took his daughter's small hand. "We're doing it. You're entering that competition." Maya's eyes went wide. "Really?" "Really. You're the best reader in your class. The other kids need to know what they're up against." Maya jumped up and hugged him so hard he almost fell off his chair. Her laughter filled the tiny apartment, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the 37th floor at 6:30 sharp. The hallway was empty, silent except for the hum of the ventilation system. He started his routine, emptying bins, wiping surfaces, but everything felt different now. He was the only maintenance worker on this floor, the only person here besides the occasional executive who came in early. At 7:45, Victoria Hartwell emerged from the elevator. She was wearing the jacket. Marcus stopped mid-motion, the trash bag in his hand forgotten. The brown leather jacket, her husband's jacket, over a crisp white blouse and black pants. It looked different on her, more lived in, more real. Victoria saw him and stopped. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then she walked over. "Marcus, ma'am, I need to thank you again. For the jacket and for what you said. You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do." Victoria's voice was softer than it had been in the conference room, less controlled. "My husband, David, he was the kindest person I've ever known. And when he died, I convinced myself that kindness died with him, that the world was just transactional, cold." She touched the jacket's collar. "Then you gave this back to me. No conditions, no agenda, just kindness." Marcus didn't know what to say. Victoria continued, the letter inside. It was dated 6 days before the accident. He was writing about our future, about the family he wanted us to build, about growing old together. Her voice cracked slightly. "I'd been looking for it everywhere. I thought maybe I'd imagined it, that grief had created a false memory." "I'm glad you found it," Marcus said quietly. Victoria met his eyes. "The raise, the reassignment. That was me. I hope you don't mind." Why would you do that?" "Because I wanted to do something kind, the way David would have, the way you did." She paused. "And because I looked at your employee file. You have a daughter. You're raising her alone. You work every shift Rick offers you. You never call in sick. You never complain." Marcus felt exposed, vulnerable. "It's just what you do." "No," Victoria said firmly. "It's what you do. Most people don't." The elevator dinged. Charles, the gray-haired man from before, stepped out carrying a leather briefcase and a tablet. "Victoria, the board meeting starts in 15 minutes. "I know, Charles." Charles glanced at Marcus, then back at Victoria. His expression was unreadable. "Should we go over the numbers?" "In my office." Charles nodded and disappeared down the hallway. Victoria looked at Marcus one more time. "Thank you, Marcus, for everything." Then she followed Charles, the leather jacket moving with her like a shield she'd forgotten she could wear. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. The weeks developed a rhythm. Marcus would arrive at 6:30. Victoria would emerge from the elevator around 7:45. Sometimes they'd exchange a greeting, sometimes just a nod. But there was an understanding between them now, something unspoken but real. Maya's reading competition was in 3 weeks. Marcus had paid the entry fee, and his daughter practiced every night, reading aloud to him while he made dinner or folded laundry. The protagonist faces her greatest challenge, Maya read carefully, sounding out the bigger words. She must choose between what is easy and what is right. That's good, baby. What do you think she'll choose? Maya looked up from her book. What's right? Because that's what heroes do. That's exactly right. One morning in mid-October, Marcus was cleaning the executive conference room when he heard raised voices. Not sustainable, Victoria. The shareholders are losing confidence. The shareholders care about quarterly returns. I care about building something that lasts. Your husband would have... Don't, Victoria's voice cut like ice. "Don't tell me what David would have done." Marcus kept his head down, kept wiping the table. Invisible. But then Victoria appeared in the doorway. Her expression was tight, controlled, but her eyes were red. "Marcus, could you give us the room for a moment?" "Yes, ma'am." He pushed his cart into the hallway and waited. Through the glass walls he could see Victoria standing with her arms crossed while Charles gestured emphatically at a presentation on the screen. 5 minutes later, the door opened. Charles walked out without looking at Marcus. Victoria stood in the doorway, her shoulders rigid. "Marcus?" "Ma'am." "Do you have children?" The question surprised him. "Yes, ma'am. A daughter. She's 7. Does she ever ask you questions you don't know how to answer?" Marcus thought about all the times Maya had asked about her mother, about why they didn't have more money, about whether she was the reason things were hard. "All the time," he said honestly. Victoria nodded slowly. "What do you tell her?" "The truth, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." "What if the truth is that you don't have all the answers?" "Then I tell her that too. I tell her we'll figure it out together." Victoria's expression softened. "Your daughter is lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have her." She smiled, a small genuine smile that transformed her face. "I believe that." Then she went back into the conference room and closed the door. That afternoon, as Marcus was finishing his shift, his phone rang. The school. "Mr. Webb, this is Principal Morrison. Maya had an incident today." His heart stopped. "Is she hurt?" No, nothing like that. But there was an altercation with another student. We need you to come pick her up." Marcus grabbed his jacket and ran. He reached the school in 20 minutes, his heart pounding the entire way. Maya was sitting in the principal's office, her arms crossed, her face set in stubborn defiance. "Maya, what happened?" "Jeremy said you were a janitor, and that's why we're poor, so I pushed him." Principal Morrison, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, sighed. "Maya, we've talked about using our words instead of our hands." "I used my words first," Maya said. "I told him my dad works hard and he's a good person, but Jeremy laughed. So I pushed him." Marcus knelt down in front of his daughter. "Maya, baby, you can't push people." "But he was being mean about you." "I know, but pushing him doesn't make it better. It just makes you someone who pushes." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I just wanted him to stop." Marcus pulled her into a hug. "I know, sweetheart, I know." Principal Morrison cleared her throat. "Mr. Webb, Maya is suspended for the rest of the day. She can return tomorrow, but if this happens again—" "It won't," Marcus said firmly. He looked at Maya. "Right?" Maya nodded miserably. They left the school together, Maya's small hand in his large one. The afternoon sun was too bright, too cheerful for how he felt. "I'm really sorry, Daddy." "I know you are." "Are you mad at me?" Marcus stopped walking. He knelt down so he was eye level with his daughter. "I'm not mad. I'm proud." Maya's eyes went wide. "Proud? But I got in trouble." "You got in trouble because you were defending me. Because you love me. That's not wrong, baby girl. But next time you defend me by showing Jeremy that my daughter is smart and kind and better than he is. You don't do it with pushing." "Okay," Maya whispered. "And Maya, Jeremy was wrong. I'm not just a janitor. I'm your father, and that's the most important job in the world." Maya hugged him tightly. "You're the best daddy ever." Marcus held her close, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on him. The shame of not being enough, the pride of raising this fierce, loyal little girl, the exhaustion of trying so hard every single day. They took the bus home. Maya fell asleep against his shoulder, worn out from the emotional day. Marcus stared out the window at the passing city, wondering how much longer he could keep this up, how much longer before something broke. When they got home, Mrs. Chen was waiting in the hallway. Marcus, a woman came by earlier, looking for you. What woman? Fancy lady, nice car. She left this. Mrs. Chen handed him an envelope. Marcus opened it. Inside was a handwritten note on expensive stationery. Marcus, I heard about what happened at Maya's school. Charles has a daughter, too. He mentioned he saw the incident report when he picked her up. Jeremy is his nephew. I'm sorry about that. I'd like to invite you and Maya to dinner this Saturday. Nothing formal, just to thank you for everything. And maybe a chance to let Maya see that the world has more people like you in it than people like Jeremy. If you're comfortable with it, my address is below. Victoria Marcus read the note 3 times. Then he looked at Maya, who was still half asleep, leaning against the wall. Baby, how would you feel about having dinner with someone this Saturday? Maya rubbed her eyes. Who? A friend, someone nice. Okay, Daddy. If you think they're nice, then I do too. That night, Marcus texted the number at the bottom of Victoria's note. We'd be honored. What can we bring? The response came 5 minutes later. Just yourselves. See you at 6. Saturday arrived, cold and gray. Marcus dressed Maya in her best outfit, a green dress Mrs. Chen had given them that was only slightly too big, and tights with only one small hole. He wore his only pair of khakis and a button-down shirt he'd ironed 3 times to get the wrinkles out. They took 2 buses to reach Victoria's address. The neighborhood transformed as they traveled, from cramped apartments to tree-lined streets to houses with gates and circular driveways. Victoria's house was at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac. It wasn't a mansion, but it was 3 times the size of any home Marcus had ever been inside. Modern, glass and wood and clean lines. Maya's hand tightened in his as they walked up the front path. Daddy, is this where rich people live? This is where Mrs. Hartwell lives. Is she nice? I think so, yeah. The door opened before they could knock. Victoria stood there, wearing jeans and a soft sweater, the first time Marcus had seen her in anything other than business attire. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders. She looked younger, more real. Marcus, Maya, I'm so glad you came. She knelt down to Maya's level. You must be the famous reader I've heard about. Maya smiled shyly. I'm in a competition next month. I heard. That's wonderful. Come in, please. The house was warm and smelled like something delicious. Victoria led them through a bright open living room into a kitchen with marble counters and gleaming appliances. I hope you like lasagna. It's not fancy, but it's David's recipe. He was the cook in this house, not me. We love lasagna, Maya said enthusiastically. They sat at a large wooden table, the kind of table that could seat 12, but tonight held only 3. Victoria served them food, poured juice for Maya and wine for the adults, and then sat down. For a moment, the silence was awkward. Then Maya said, This is the best lasagna I've ever had. Victoria's face lit up. Really? Uh-huh. My daddy makes spaghetti, but he burns it sometimes. Maya. Marcus felt his face heat up. Victoria laughed. A real laugh that sounded rusty, like she hadn't used it in a long time. Cooking is hard. I burn things all the time. But you live in this big house. Don't you have someone to cook for you? Maya, Marcus warned, but Victoria just smiled. I could, but eating alone is sad, even when the food is good. It's better when you share it with people. Maya nodded seriously. That's what my daddy says. He says food tastes better when you're with people you love. Something flickered across Victoria's face. She looked at Marcus. Your father is a wise man. After dinner, Victoria showed Maya a bookshelf in the living room. David collected children's books. He always said, her voice caught. He always said they'd be for our kids someday, but we never got that far. Would you like to borrow some? Maya's eyes went wide. Really? Really? Maya carefully selected 3 books, handling them like they were made of glass. Victoria watched, her with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. Sadness, longing, something else. While Maya was absorbed in examining her borrowed treasures, Victoria turned to Marcus. "Can we talk for a moment? Privately?" They stepped onto the back patio. The evening air was cold, but the space heater kept the worst of it away. Below them, the city stretched out in a carpet of lights. "I need to tell you something," Victoria said, "and I need you to understand it's not charity." Marcus tensed. "Okay. I've been watching you, the way you work, the way you carry yourself. You're smart, Marcus, observant. You see things other people miss. I don't understand where this is going." Victoria took a breath. "The board is trying to force me out. They think I'm too emotional since David died, too unpredictable. They want someone who will prioritize profits over people. I'm sorry, but I don't see what that has to do with me. I need someone I can trust, someone who isn't part of the corporate machinery, someone who'll tell me the truth." She looked at him directly. "I want to hire you as my personal assistant." Marcus stared at her. "Your what?" "The pay is $60,000 a year. Health insurance, actual benefits. You'd work normal hours, be home with Maya in the evenings." 60,000. Marcus couldn't even comprehend that number. It was more than he'd ever made in his life. "Why me? I clean floors. I don't know anything about corporate. You know about people. You know about integrity. And right now, that's more valuable than an MBA." Victoria's voice was earnest. "I'm not offering this because I feel sorry for you. I'm offering it because I think you could actually help me, and because—" She paused. "Because ever since David died, everyone around me is either trying to manipulate me or manage me. But you just gave me back his jacket, no agenda. That's rare." Marcus looked through the glass doors at Maya, who was curled up on Victoria's couch reading one of the borrowed books. "Can I think about it?" "Of course, take your time." But in his heart, Marcus already knew his answer. That night, after they'd taken the 2 buses home and Maya was asleep, Marcus sat at their small table and looked at the ceramic jar with $43 in it. 60,000 a year, health insurance, normal hours. He could give Maya everything she deserved, everything Keisha would have wanted for her. But accepting it felt like stepping into a world where he didn't belong, a world that had never wanted him before and might not want him now. He thought about Victoria's face when she held that jacket, the tears she couldn't stop, the letter she'd been searching for. Some things aren't about money. He picked up his phone and texted her. "I'll take the job. When do I start?" The response came immediately. "Monday." "Thank you, Marcus. You have no idea what this means." Marcus set down his phone and looked around their tiny apartment, at Maya sleeping peacefully, at the life they'd built from nothing. He had no idea what came next, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. Marcus's first week as Victoria's assistant felt like learning a new language. Conference calls, financial reports, board members whose smiles never reached their eyes. But he watched, learned, and most importantly, he listened. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday. Victoria was tense all week, the leather jacket draped over her chair like armor. "They're going to call for a vote," she told Marcus Thursday evening. "Charles says I'm too emotionally compromised, that hiring you proves I'm not thinking clearly. Maybe I should resign." "No." Victoria's voice was steel. "You're here because you're exactly what this company needs. Someone who remembers we're supposed to help people, not just extract profit from them." Friday morning, Marcus arrived at 6 a.m. He found Victoria already there, staring at the city below. "My husband started this company to make things better," she said quietly. "Medical devices that saved lives, technologies that helped people. Somewhere along the way, the board forgot that. They only see numbers now. What do you see?" I see David's dream dying." She turned to face him. "I see myself becoming exactly what he never wanted me to be, someone who let fear make her cold." The boardroom filled at 9 a.m. 12 executives in expensive suits. Charles sat at the far end, his expression sympathetic but determined. "Victoria, we're concerned," he began. "The company's stock has dropped 15% since you rejected the merger. You've made unconventional staffing choices. The shareholders are worried." "Worried about what? We're still profitable. Our products still save lives." "But for how long?" Another board member, a woman named Patricia, leaned forward. "Your judgment has been questionable. Hiring a janitor as your assistant? Wearing your dead husband's jacket to work? Victoria, we're trying to help you." Marcus felt rage building in his chest, but Victoria's hand touched his arm gently. "Wait. You think I'm broken," Victoria said calmly. "You think grief has made me weak, but I'm clearer now than I've been in 18 months. She stood, removing the leather jacket and placing it on the table. "David left me a letter. It was in this jacket. I'd been looking for it since he died." Her voice was steady. "He wrote about the kind of company he wanted to build. One where kindness mattered, where people came first, where we measured success not just in dollars but in lives improved." She looked around the room. "This board wants to sell to Drummond Industries, a company with 17 safety violations, 6 pending lawsuits, and a CEO who's currently under investigation for fraud. Why? Because the short-term profit looks good on paper." "Victoria," Charles began. "I'm not finished." She pulled out a folder Marcus had helped her prepare. "Marcus noticed something I'd missed. The Drummond deal includes a clause that dissolves our employee health care within 6 months. 400 families lose their coverage, but the board gets substantial bonuses." The room went silent. Marcus found that clause because he actually read the contract, because he knows what it means when people lose health care. His daughter's reading competition entry fee was $25, and that was a financial decision for his family. How many of you even know what your children's activities cost? Patricia shifted uncomfortably. Victoria continued. "I'm not voting for this merger, and if you try to remove me, I'll go public with every detail. The media would love this story. Board prioritizes profits over employee welfare, while CEO fights for her late husband's vision." Charles stood slowly. For a moment, Marcus thought he'd explode. Instead, he smiled sadly. "You sound just like David." He looked at the other board members. He would have said the same thing. Maybe we have lost our way. Patricia nodded. "I'll vote against the merger." One by one, others agreed. The vote was 10-2 against the merger. Victoria's shoulders dropped slightly. She looked at Marcus and he saw tears in her eyes, but this time they were relief. 6 months later, Maya won second place in the city reading competition. Victoria was there, cheering louder than anyone. Marcus's apartment was bigger now. 2 bedrooms, working heat, a kitchen where Maya could do homework while he cooked. But they still had dinner at Victoria's house every Sunday. One evening, after Maya had fallen asleep on Victoria's couch with a book on her chest, Victoria turned to Marcus. "I've been thinking about what David wrote in that letter. About family. About building something that lasts." "Yeah? I think he'd be happy. About the company. About—" She hesitated. "About you being here." Marcus looked at this woman who'd given him a chance when the world never had. "I think he'd be proud of you. For staying true to what mattered." Victoria smiled. The same genuine smile that had become more frequent over these months. "We make a good team." "Yeah," Marcus agreed, "we really do." Through the window, the city glowed. Inside, Maya dreamed, and 2 people who'd lost everything learned that sometimes kindness returned to you in unexpected ways. The leather jacket hung in Victoria's office now, a reminder that some things, love, integrity, human connection couldn't be measured in quarterly reports. And that was exactly how it should be. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.